I stayed the night because I needed the money. The outage earlier meant half the shift was wasted, and management pushed hard for overtime. Most left by 10, but I stayed past 11. I really needed the bonus. Everything felt wrong from the moment the last person walked out. The quiet in that building isn't peaceful. It's oppressive. The type that makes every noise feel too loud. My typing, the AC, the water cooler humming. I was the only one left in the call center, 14th floor. I didn't like it, but I'd done it before. I kept checking the clock. The screen's brightness burned my eyes. I remember stretching back, thinking how badly I wanted to leave. I was hungry, my legs ached. I was done. I saved the last report, looked at my computer, and started gathering my stuff. That's when I noticed it. A flicker. Not like when a bulb buzzes and dies. This one was different. The lights on the far end blinked once. Then they went out completely. I stood still for a second. It was too sudden. I looked around. Every other light on the floor was working. Just that corner, the break room section, was pitch black now. The printer machine was still lit, and I could hear the hum of one of the fridges. So power was on. I considered ignoring it. Maybe a fuse. But before I could take a step, I heard a sound that stopped me cold. It was subtle at first. A dragging noise. Then a sharp squeak, the kind metal makes when it scrapes tile. One of the swivel chairs, far across the room, was moving. I saw it clearly, even in the dim light. It rolled out from under the table and slowly turned until it faced my direction. I didn't blink. I didn't even breathe. The chair stopped. Nothing else moved. My first instinct was to scream. It was to move. I grabbed my bag, slung it over my shoulder, and walked fast toward the exit. Not a run. Not yet. I tried to stay calm. I didn't look back at the chair. I didn't want to see if it moved again. Whatever did that, whether a person or something else, I didn't want to wait around for more. The elevator wasn't an option. I knew it'd take too long. I headed straight for the stairwell. I pushed the heavy door open and stepped inside. Cold air hit me. The stairwell was barely lit, buzzing with a flickering light above. I started going down, fast and focused, skipping steps when I could. I just needed to get to the ground floor and get to the garage. Then I heard the stairwell door above me slam open. I didn't see anything yet, but I heard the footsteps. Heavy, fast, getting closer. Someone was running after me. I stopped, turned my head. There he was, Ian, the night guard. He looked calm, too calm. Sweat on the brow, but not from fear. He was wearing that dumb smirk he always had when he tried to flirt with me. He held the railing like he wasn't even out of breath. He saw me frozen halfway down the stairs and started descending slowly. Heard something, didn't you? Lights? The chair? You're not crazy. He stopped 2 steps above me. His voice tried to sound comforting, but his tone was rehearsed, controlled, like he was saying something he practiced in his head too many times. I didn't answer. My body was tense. I was still holding my bag like a shield. How do you know about the chair? He started walking again, slow and casual. He kept talking. Been noticing stuff for a while now. Thought it was me, but I saw it on the monitors too. This building isn't right. There's something here. Not human. We're not safe in the open. I can show you. Let's go back upstairs. Security office has reinforced doors, monitors. You'll see what I mean. I stepped down 1 stair. He stepped down 2. I said no. He stopped. For a second, he smiled like it was a joke. But then the corners of his mouth dropped. I could see the shift in his eyes. The smile was just a mask. Now I was seeing whatever was behind it. I turned and kept descending fast. He didn't say anything else. I heard the stomp behind me. Then came the shove. It wasn't a small push. It was violent, sudden. My foot missed a step. I fell forward, smashed my side against the concrete, tumbled down the stairs. My bag flew. My left wrist cracked the wrong way. Pain shot through my arm and chest. I screamed, more from the shock than the pain. I looked up. Ian stood above me, halfway down the stairs. His face was twisted with concern, but fake. He tried to play it off. I didn't push you, I swear. That thing did. You felt it, didn't you? He came closer, offering a hand. I backed away. My left arm wasn't working right. I used the wall to stand. My breathing was ragged. That's when he stopped pretending. He knew I didn't believe him. His jaw clenched. His hand dropped. He looked different now. Real dangerous. Without warning, he rushed me. He grabbed my hair and yanked me up like I was nothing. I screamed again, this time louder, but it echoed uselessly. He shoved me against the wall. I kicked, I scratched. My good hand hit his face, but he didn't let go. His voice changed. It dropped to a low growl. You think I'm crazy? You think I'd hurt you? I've done nothing but protected you. He dragged me up the stairs by my arm. I stumbled, tried to resist, but I couldn't fight back properly. He kept whispering, telling me this was necessary, that I'd understand soon. I was just confused. The building had a presence, he said. It controlled people. It made them do things. That's why he had to keep me safe. I bit his shoulder hard. He screamed and let go for a second. I didn't waste it. I bolted down the stairs, one arm hanging uselessly, limping. I could see the exit sign below. Ground floor. I was almost there. My legs burned, but I didn't stop. I heard him scream behind me. His voice wasn't calm anymore. It cracked with rage. I hit the last landing, turned the corner, and he slammed into me again. Full force. We crashed against the wall. He was on top of me before I could get up. His hands wrapped around my neck. He didn't choke with desperation. He did it slowly, controlled, like he was measuring how much pressure I could take. You're not going to die. I just need you quiet. I fought him, grabbing at his face, his eyes, anything. He squeezed harder. My vision pulsed back. My limbs slowed. I couldn't breathe. He whispered to me again, nonsense about sharing space and waiting for it to pass. I felt my body stop resisting. I faded. The next thing I saw was the glow of monitors. My face was wet. My throat was sore. I was tied to a chair in his office. He paced back and forth, muttering, checking his watch, wiping sweat off his face. I couldn't speak, couldn't scream. My mouth was duct taped. My arms were zip-tied. Pain radiated from my wrist and my ribs. I couldn't tell how much time had passed. He kept talking to himself. He said this was the safest room. He said I'd thank him, that we'd just wait until the thing left. Then we'd go home together. I couldn't do anything but stare. His eyes were bloodshot. His shirt was soaked. He had no plan. I heard the sirens first, distant, then close. He froze. Lights flickered outside the door, red and blue. He looked at the screens, but they were off. He'd cut the feeds himself. He swore. He pulled open a drawer and grabbed something heavy. Then he changed his mind and threw it across the room. The door burst open. Armed cops. They moved fast, shouted commands. Ian raised his hands too late. They slammed him down, cuffed him, dragged him out while he yelled about the presence, about how they were all in danger. No one listened. Someone cut my restraints. Another officer pulled the tape from my mouth. I couldn't speak yet. They wrapped a jacket around me, guided me out step by step. They asked questions, but I didn't answer. Not yet. I could barely process that I was alive. Later, I learned the building's system showed I never exited. That's what triggered everything. Ian had cut the cameras, but didn't report the issue. That, along with no log of my card exit, was enough to send a unit. They got there just in time. Not because of any spirit, just because he was sloppy. They say he's in a facility now. Evaluation. He's facing charges, but he still insists he was helping me. He says he saved me from the building's spirit. They say he was obsessed, that he had notes, recordings, clips he'd saved of me walking in and out. He watched me for months. I never went back to that office. I quit. Changed phones, changed locks. For a while, I didn't sleep. I kept seeing that chair move. But worse than that, I kept seeing his face. Calm, calculating, like nothing he did was wrong. I don't know if something supernatural really happened that night. I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter if the building's haunted. What scared me wasn't the flickering lights or the chair that moved. What scared me was how easily a man used that story to do whatever he wanted to me. How close he had been the whole time. How well he hid it. You can turn on all the lights in the world. It won't help you if the monster has a badge.
I work in a collections call center, cubicle number 17, second floor, near the flickering ceiling lights no one's bothered to fix. Every day is the same. Headset on, screen glowing, names and numbers in front of me. Most of the time they hang up. Sometimes they scream. Either way I hit the next number and keep going. There's no joy in it, just motion. You learn to block it out and keep your voice fake friendly. Script in hand, fake empathy loaded. They trained us to expect harassment. People hate debt collectors. They curse. They cry. They make threats. You mute. You type notes. And forget the name. That's the rhythm. It becomes automatic. Like blinking. The worst ones stay in your head for a few minutes. Then, the next shift wipes them out. I was 2 months into the job when I hit a number that shouldn't have been active. The system showed a balance owed. A flagged warning in red. And a disconnected status. I don't remember the name. I hit dial anyway. Sometimes these are just back-end errors. You call, they answer, and you collect. That's how it's supposed to go. This time someone picked up, but it didn't go like any other call I've had. There was no hello, no background noise, just silence. For 3 full seconds, then a voice came through. Calm, slow, deep. Almost like he was reading from a page, but not quite.
No one's coming for you, Clara. You're completely alone in there.
He said my name before I introduced myself. I didn't breathe for a second. I checked if I was still on script, if I had slipped somehow, but everything was normal. Except him. I asked him to verify his name. He didn't. Instead, he asked me if I liked Station 17. My stomach dropped. That wasn't public. The cubicle number doesn't show up on anything. It's assigned internally. I paused, tried to stay calm, told him this was a business call, and if he continued this way, I'd have to disconnect. He laughed, no emotion in it, just a dry, sharp breath.
Disconnect? See where that gets you. I already crawled in through your firewall. You let me in, Clara. You already did.
I ended the call immediately, marked it as hostile, tried to report it to my supervisor, but the report screen wouldn't load. The monitor glitched for 2 seconds, then it turned black. In the middle of the screen, bold white text appeared. Did you think I wouldn't find you? I stayed at my desk, frozen. The software rebooted itself. When it came back, the text was gone. I looked around the floor. No one else reacted. They were typing, talking, eating chips, like nothing happened. I whispered to the girl next to me and asked if her system had glitched. She gave me a weird look and shook her head. I tried logging a maintenance ticket, but it kept looping to a black screen. I switched to a different terminal just to finish the day. But the moment I plugged in my headset, I heard it again. Static, not the usual crackle. This sounded like it was right inside my ear. Then breathing, not fast, controlled, measured, like something sitting right behind me. My hands went cold. I yanked the headset off and stood up. No one was there, just rows of cubicles and a humming printer. A few minutes later, I noticed the terminal at cubicle 14. Empty. It was on. Its screen flashed the same sentence. 17 is not in service. I walked over thinking maybe someone left it on. When I got closer, the screen flickered again, showing my name and the name of my apartment building. I blinked and it was gone, replaced by the login screen. No one else seemed to notice anything. I backed away and logged out early. That night, my apartment felt wrong. I locked the door twice, closed the windows, pulled the blinds. Then I noticed something I never do. I never leave the bedroom light on. But when I entered, the light was on. I live alone. The door was locked. I turned off the light and sat on the bed, listening for sounds. Nothing. Until my phone lit up on the nightstand. No vibration. No ring. Just a message that had already been opened. One word. Run. I went back to work the next day against my gut. I needed the paycheck. I kept telling myself it was just someone messing with me. Maybe IT. Maybe some burnout coworker pulling a prank. But when I walked in, someone had left the paper folded on my desk. No markings. Inside were printed screenshots of my social media posts, even ones I had deleted. A photo of me at 16, smiling at a school party. That one wasn't even online anymore. I ripped it up and threw it out. My hands were shaking. I went to my boss again, demanded to know if someone was accessing my profile. He rolled his eyes, said the IT team confirmed that there were no breaches. When I asked who was sitting at Terminal 14 the day before, he said it had been decommissioned months ago. No one was assigned there. I decided to leave early. On my way out, I passed by the break room. The TV was on, showing a news channel. Just as I walked by, the feed cut and switched to static. Then a low tone played, long and flat. My name flickered on the screen for a full second before the news anchor came back on. Confused, I turned and left the building immediately. I got 3 private number calls that night. I didn't answer. The 4th time, I picked up. No sound at first. Then, a quiet voice.
You can lock the door again, but you already mapped your Wi-Fi. You gave me everything when you plugged in your headset.
I asked what he wanted.
To see how long it takes before you break.
Then, he hung up. I couldn't sleep. I stayed up until 5 a.m., watching the door, phone in hand. Eventually, exhaustion took over. I called in sick the next day, and didn't leave the apartment. 2 days later, I forced myself to go out for groceries. It was late, but I didn't care anymore. I just needed to move, to feel like something made sense again. On the walk back, I passed the plaza near 6th and Melrose. That's when I noticed a man walking behind me. Not close, but steady. I slowed down. He slowed down too. I stopped to check my phone. He paused by a bench. Didn't sit. Didn't turn. Just waited. I picked up my pace. That's when someone came up from the left side, cutting through the trees. He looked about 40. Scruffy beard. Worn coat.
Hey, sorry, I don't want to freak you out.
I stepped back. He raised both hands.
Listen, I was walking past the plaza and I noticed a guy tracking you. Black shirt, jeans, real focused. When you stopped earlier, he did too. He hasn't taken his eyes off you. The whole block.
I looked back. The other guy was now half a block behind. Still moving.
I think you should go to the police station. There's one on the 9th. I can walk you there if you want.
I told him I'd go alone. He nodded.
I get it. Just be careful.
He walked away, disappeared around the corner. I turned toward the station, started walking fast. When I crossed the 8th Street, someone fell into step behind me. I didn't look. I just ran. My feet hit the concrete hard. The station was close, just 3 blocks. I didn't risk checking over my shoulder. I could hear him behind me, closing the gap. His footsteps were heavier, more aggressive. I turned the corner and saw the glowing police sign. Just as I reached it, his hand grabbed my shoulder and spun me around. He slammed me against the wall, hand tightening around my throat. He tried dragging me towards the side alley, feet scraping the ground. I kicked him in the shin, hard. But he didn't flinch. My vision blurred. Then,
Stop! Let her go!
a cop came around the corner, weapon drawn. The man froze. I dropped to the ground coughing. The officer shouted again. The guy raised his hand, but his face didn't show fear. He looked annoyed, like the game got cut too early. They arrested him. When they shoved him into the car, he didn't yell or struggle. He surrendered. The nightmare was over. 3 days later, I saw the man who warned me again. Same street, same time. He was leaning on the railing, smoking something cheap. I never got to thank you properly.
No need. You're good now.
He smiled, turned away. I started to walk, then I stopped. Wait, what's your name? You kinda saved me and it feels weird that I didn't even ask you that. He looked back at me, calm, no expression.
Oh, you don't need to know it, Clara.
What? Why did he just say that? That's when it hit me. I never told him my name. He didn't ask. How did he know my name? I wanted to ask more, but he was gone. Not down the street, not in the plaza, just vanished. I stood there, frozen. What if the man that attacked me was just another random dude trying to rob me? What if the real stalker noticed that and warned me? What if I'd been talking with the real stalker? After that day, I didn't receive any calls or messages. I don't think he got scared, or that the arrested man was the stalker. I really believe that he let me go because he had his fun. He was happy. It's really weird to say, but if that means he's going to leave me alone, I'm okay with him winning.
For as long as they've been around, scary stories and urban legends alike have used the telephone as a central theme. From H.P. Lovecraft's The Statement of Randolph Carter to the opening scene of the multi-part Scream franchise, creepy telephone calls have captured the imagination of worldwide audiences for almost 100 years now. Yet back in 2007, a series of mysterious and terrifying events in the U.S. state of Washington proved once and for all that real life can be far stranger than fiction. This is the story of the restricted caller. In the Tacoma suburb of Faircrest, 16-year-old Courtney Kirkendall began to experience something very strange indeed. Her friends began to complain that she was sending them some rather cryptic text messages and asked her what they meant. But there was one major problem. Courtney hadn't been texting them at all, and she had the empty sent folder to prove it. Before Courtney's parents had the chance to address the issue, her phone began to receive a series of phone calls from someone with a scratchy voice, who called from a number which simply read, "restricted." The calls consisted of the man with the scratchy voice describing whatever Courtney was doing at that particular moment, letting her know in the creepiest way possible that he was somehow watching her from afar. Yet these calls weren't just restricted to young Courtney, as one of the Kirkendall's neighbors, Andrea McKay, also found herself a target of the mysterious calls. One day, she answered her phone while cutting limes in her kitchen, only to have the mysterious caller tell her that he preferred lemons. By the time that the Kirkendall family noticed that all of their cell phones were behaving strangely, they decided to contact their local police department. They complained that their phones were not only sending text messages on their own, but they were also turning themselves on unprompted, with the ringtone spontaneously changing. They also informed police of the bizarre phone calls that they were receiving, and after turning the devices over to the police, they were assured that any further calls would be traced in order to identify the mysterious caller. In the days that followed, when a call came into one of the family's phones, police began to quickly trace the origin of it. Yet when they finally identified the source of the calls, they came from a place they least suspected. You see, according to the trace program, the calls were coming from Courtney's phone, even when it was switched off. This led police to recommend that the family switch cell phones altogether, but since they couldn't afford to, they simply kept their current phones and hoped the problem would subside on its own. But instead of petering out, the calls only grew more intense. Heather Kirkendall, the family matriarch, claimed that during one call, the scratchy voice caller said, "They say you're going to die. We hate you. We're going to murder you." The calls also started coming during the midnight hours, and Even if the family members turned their phones off, whoever had control of their devices would simply switch them on before calling. In the end, they were forced to take the batteries out at night in order to get any real sleep. Arguably, the most terrifying call came to the neighboring McKay family, with the caller claiming that there was going to be a shooting at their children's school. The caller also seemed to know the exact school that they were attending, which made the threat all the more frightening for their terrified parents. The McKays were so scared and upset by the call that they called the threat into their children's school, but thankfully, no such shooting ever occurred. The next escalation in the calls came when one didn't feature the scratchy voice caller at all, but rather a recording of a private conversation between members of the Kirkendall family. One such call featured a recording of a conversation between one of the family members and a detective who was dealing with their case, as if to show that the caller was well aware of their attempts to apprehend him. It was like the caller knew the police were almost incapable of catching him, and the Fircrest PD had stated on multiple occasions that the investigation was floundering. It's entirely possible that the scratchy-voiced man had heard this admission somehow, in the same way he'd listened to and recorded the family's conversations. Despite the caller violating several federal laws, law enforcement was still warming up to the idea of cybercrime in 2007. Fircrest Police Chief John Cheeseman told the media, "We're almost dumbfounded. We've never seen anything like this." Their confusion was such that at one point, the police actually suspected one of the family members as being the guilty party, with one detective stating that, "At this point, we aren't saying it's someone inside the family, but it's someone that is close enough to them to know this much about them. It seems like it's someone who is tied into the group, a family member, a friend or enemy." For a brief period, the story of the Kirkendalls' digital harassment drew the interest of both the regional and national media. But when the police failed to bring about a speedy resolution to the case, journalistic interest seemed to drop off entirely. To this day, the case remains entirely unresolved, and although incidents of phone hacking are relatively rare, they're surprisingly easy to pull off. Phone hacking, or phone breaking as it used to be called, has been going on since the telephone was first invented. Telecommunications enthusiasts began by hacking payphones and learning how to impersonate phone operators in order to make free calls, and if a person had access to the right technology, tapping a phone line was a frighteningly simple process. Even today, in the age of advanced digital security and two-step authentication, phone hacking is still a very real possibility, with hackers remaining only 1 or 2 steps behind even the most cutting-edge technology. And these days, it's clear we rely on our phones for almost everything. They serve as our wallets, our televisions, our record players, our cameras, and our photo albums. You need only remind yourself of the minor panic you last experienced when you thought you'd lost your phone. It's scary enough thinking that we've become addicted to them, but perhaps it's even scarier to realize that they're perhaps one of the most potent attack vectors in our lives. There are people out there with the power to turn something that makes our lives easier into something that can make our lives a living hell. With just the small piece of plastic we carry in our pockets, someone can steal from us, blackmail us, and terrorize us. So unless we, as a society, begin to exercise a kind of sharper digital discipline, the things we rely on most remain gateways by which pure torture can be unleashed.